If your new home feels like a fresh start, beware. It might just be the beginning of your worst nightmare. Moving into a new place can be an exciting adventure, a chance to start over, to create new memories, and to leave the past behind. But sometimes the past refuses to be left behind. Sometimes it clings to the walls, the floors, the very air you breathe, waiting for the right moment to make itself known. Emma had just moved into a quaint old apartment in a quiet part of town, eager for a fresh start after a difficult breakup. She was looking forward to the peace and solitude, to the chance to heal and rebuild her life. The apartment, with its charming quirks and vintage appeal, seemed like the perfect place to do just that. The place had creaky wooden floors, vintage wallpaper peeling at the edges. It was the kind of place that felt lived in, with a history that whispered through every crack and crevice. Emma found comfort in its imperfections, believing they added to the charm and personality of her new home, but it felt lonely. Despite its charm, the apartment had an emptiness to it, a silence that seemed to echo through the halls. Emma tried to fill the space with her belongings, her laughter, her presence, but the loneliness lingered, a constant nagging feeling that she couldn't quite shake. A week in, she found an envelope slipped under her door. It was a simple, unassuming envelope, the kind you might expect to find a bill or a flyer in. But when Emma picked it up, she felt a chill run down her spine, as if the envelope itself carried a weight, a sense of foreboding. Inside, a handwritten letter from the previous tenant, Sarah. It's not just the walls that hold memories. Something watches, something waits. Don't let it in. The words were scrawled in a hurried, almost frantic hand, as if Sarah had been desperate to get the message out before it was too late. Emma laughed it off as a prank. She couldn't believe that anyone would take such a thing seriously. It was probably just a joke, she thought, a way for the previous tenant to have a bit of fun at her expense. She crumpled the letter and tossed it aside, determined not to let it bother her. But the letters kept coming, each one more frantic. Each new letter seemed to carry a greater sense of urgency, a deeper sense of dread. Sarah's warnings grew more detailed, more desperate, as if she was trying to convey the true horror of what she had experienced. Sarah spoke of shadowy figures, whispers at night, a growing dread. She described the feeling of being watched, of hearing voices in the dark, of seeing shapes move in the corners of her vision. The letters painted a picture of a presence that was always there, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. I had to leave before it took me. You must be careful. Sarah's final letters were filled with a sense of urgency, a desperate plea for Emma to heed her warnings and leave before it was too late. But Emma, stubborn and skeptical, refused to believe that there was anything to fear. Curiosity led Emma to search for Sarah, but she found nothing. No forwarding address, no records. It was as if Sarah had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only her cryptic letters. Emma's curiosity turned to frustration as she tried to find any trace of the previous tenant, but every lead turned into a dead end. The letters became personal, describing her routine, her thoughts, her fears. It was as if Sarah, or whatever force was behind the letters, was watching Emma's every move, learning her secrets and using them against her. The letters began to describe things that only Emma could know, things she had never shared with anyone. One night she heard whispers. They were faint at first, barely audible, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. But as the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent until they were all Emma could hear. "You don't belong here," they taunted. The voices were cruel, mocking, filled with a malice that made Emma's skin crawl. She tried to block them out, to convince herself that it was all in her head. But the whispers persisted, growing louder and more menacing with each passing moment. Terrified, she shut her eyes, hoping it was her imagination. She squeezed her eyes shut and covered her ears, trying to drown out the voices, but they only seemed to grow louder, echoing in her mind like a chorus of torment. The letters grew darker, whispers louder, an invisible weight pressing on her chest. It felt as if the very air in the apartment was turning against her, suffocating her, crushing her under its weight. The once charming quirks of the apartment now seemed sinister, each creak and groan a reminder of the presence that haunted her. Her thoughts blurred with the voices. She could no longer tell where her own thoughts ended, and the whispers began. It was as if her mind was being invaded, taken over by the malevolent force that had driven Sarah away. Desperate, Emma decided to leave. She couldn't take it anymore. The fear, the whispers, the sense of being watched, it was all too much. She packed her bags in a hurry, determined to escape the nightmare that her new home had become. But as she reached for the door, the whispers wrapped around her like fog. They seemed to seep into her very being, filling her with a sense of dread and hopelessness. It was as if the apartment itself was trying to keep her from leaving, to trap her within its walls forever. "You can't escape. You are ours now." The voices were relentless, their words echoing in her mind, filling her with a sense of despair. Emma felt as if she was being pulled into a dark abyss, a place from which there was no escape. In defiance, she screamed, "I won't let you win!" She refused to give in to the fear, to let the voices control her. With a surge of determination, she pushed against the door, fighting to break free from the grip of the malevolent force that held her captive, and burst through the door. She stumbled into the hallway, gasping for breath, her heart pounding in her chest. For a moment, she thought she had escaped, that she was free from the nightmare that had consumed her. But when she turned back, it slammed shut, trapping her inside. The door closed with a finality that sent a chill down her spine. Emma realized that she was still trapped, that the apartment had not let her go. Days later, a new letter appeared under the door. It was the same as before, a simple envelope with a handwritten note inside. But this time, the message was different, more ominous. "I tried to warn you. Now it's your turn to write." The words sent a shiver down Emma's spine. She realized that she was now part of the cycle, that she had become the next victim of the apartment's malevolent force. Emma's voice joined the others, echoing through the walls as the apartment waited for its next tenant. The whispers continued, a chorus of lost souls trapped within the walls, waiting for the next unsuspecting tenant to move in and become part of the haunting legacy of the old apartment.